What is happening, everybody? James Hancock here. Hope everyone is recovering from their St. Patrick's Day hangovers, and I feel like one of the best ways you could possibly do that would be to watch the latest episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead. Episode 4 of Season 3 is called Unfinished Business, and speaking of unfinished business, the business of keeping Ash vs. Evil Dead on Starz is unfinished as well. I've got a quote here from a couple weeks ago from Bruce Campbell, and he said, "We won't know if we've been renewed till the middle of March. We're in the horrible television limbo right now. If they take us off the air, we can think about another movie, and if they don't, we can just keep plugging away." Now, we are in the middle of March, and I haven't seen any news in the last couple days about whether or not Starz is going to continue with the show. I know Starz got dropped by a major cable provider this past year, which has really hurt Starz' numbers, but my hope is that a lot of people are watching Ash vs. Evil Dead on the Starz app. If you're a fan of Bruce Campbell, or if you're a fan of this franchise, please do not pirate or steal it, because now's the point where numbers really do matter. And if you have friends who are pirating the show, beat 7 shades of shit out of them and tell them to put their money where their mouth is and support Ash vs. Evil Dead by subscribing to the Starz app. In any case, after a relatively lukewarm episode last week, I thought Unfinished Business was pretty goddamn good. The episode had some great physical comedy, had some great gore, had a little bit of lore and world building. It had one of the most unusual sight gags in the history of the franchise, and best of all, Kelly got to give some tough love to Brandy. Brandy, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting into that character or caring one iota about her. However, I love and adore Kelly. So seeing Kelly give Brandy some tough love about what Ash represents was particularly satisfying to me. But the episode begins in classic fashion as Ash dismembers the kind of fake body of his father, played by Lee Majors. I mean, just the fact that we have Bruce Campbell and Lee Majors in the same show, that alone should be a cause for celebration. For people who are my age or older, Lee Majors was just a stud back in the 1970s with shows like The Fall Guy. And if you've never seen The Fall Guy, just look up on YouTube the intro to Fall Guy. He was a true man's man in 70s fashion. So just getting to see Lee Majors and Bruce Campbell interact is a special pleasure for me. And I love how as soon as Ash is finished chopping up his dad, he immediately pops a Shimp's beer, and granted his hand kind of malfunctions and sends it everywhere, but prior to the release of this season, I remember seeing this great Shimp's beer commercial. I think there are 2 or 3 of them that were on YouTube. I'm still kind of waiting to see if those will be incorporated into the show in some sort of like dream sequence or something like that. In any case, if you haven't seen the Shimp's beer, it's for drinkers, not thinkers, definitely look up that as well. But eventually the ghost of Ash's real dad, not the fake dad, shows up and tells me he has a huge secret he has to share with him. He also gives his son a little shit about spending more money on getting his fender fixed than he did on his own dad's funeral. But while all this is going down, we get this great scene where the Deadite version of Pablo attacks Kelly and Brandy, and it's this great scene in a car where air supplies all out of love is blasting while Pablo's attacking him from all sides, and he bites the shit out of Kelly's leg, and it leads to this great confrontation in Ash's now reinforced trailer. I mean, as we all remember, in the first episode of the first season, Ash's trailer got absolutely torn to pieces in the very first battle. So now it's actually insanely difficult for Deadites to get in through windows, and Pablo's just slamming himself against the glass repeatedly. Brandy's wailing and moaning about how much she hates her dad, and Kelly kind of reminds her that her dad's a total badass in spite of some of his personal flaws that he might have. But we get this great bit where Kelly, looking totally badass in all black leather, throws her leg up on a table to examine the wound, and we see what is basically Pablo's mouth talking to her and talking shit. And if you watch the special features after the episode, producer Rob Taper talks about how they made that, but it had to be small and form-fitting just to be able to fit onto her leg without bulging out. But I thought they did an absolutely brilliant job of creating this really unusual, twisted, disgusting-looking, but incredibly funny sight gag of the Deadite Pablo talking all kinds of shit from Kelly's calf muscle. So the ghost of Ash's dad takes him back to 2012 and shows him this scene in the hardware store. One of the Knights of Samaria came to Ash's dad looking for Ash. And here we get this great piece of the jigsaw puzzle to Ash's origin, or at least I believe this is the first time we've heard it, but he refers to Ash as Ashley Joanna Williams. Have we ever actually had the J in Ash's name confirmed before as Joanna? And I played it back several times, and he kind of mumbles his way through it, so I couldn't hear it perfectly clearly. But I just love the fact that his name is Ashley Joanna Williams. And Ash looks to his dad and says, "Yeah, thanks a lot for the name." But his dad very wisely points out that it gave him tough skin because of all the beatdowns he received on the playground as a kid. But if any of you out there know if we've ever actually had Ashley's middle name confirmed before, I would love to know. But as it turns out, Ash's dad accidentally kills this knight and leaves him down in the cellar of the hardware store with these missing pages from the Necronomicon. So back in the present, Ash and his dad go to this cellar. And we get this great line from Ash where he says, "I've had a little experience with cellars and dead bodies, Dad." And I just love how no matter what happens, no matter what buildings burn down, no matter what locations they go to, they still find ways to send Ash downstairs into cellars to encounter unspeakable evil. In the end, scenes like that are kind of the essence of what Evil Dead is all about. But another thing that's part of the essence of Evil Dead is this Three Stooges style humor that Sam Raimi and Rob Tapert and Bruce Campbell have been celebrating and practicing way back to the 70s, because as they're examining this wall with all these drawings from the Necronomicon's missing pages, all these tentacles come out and start grabbing Ash and throwing him around, and he's like complaining about his hammy, and one of them goes through his mouth and like out his nose. It reminds me a lot of the little skeleton finger gags in Army of Darkness, which keep poking him in the eye, and he's, having this little war with them. And while it might seem totally juvenile, that style of humor is at the core of what this circle of friends and filmmakers has been all about since their childhood. So before the episode wraps up, we get a little information with Ruby communicating with somebody through the Book of the Dead. Ruby wants to find this girl a suitable host that she can possess. Ruby actually goes to the deadite body of Dalton to try to extract some information, and she turns him human briefly, but he uses that opportunity to blow his own head off. But speaking of Ruby, Ash goes to Ruby's home where he finds the Norwegian hitchhiker, as well as his little demon baby clone son, whatever you want to call it. The little creature sucking on a decapitated thumb from the other Norwegian hitchhiker, and we get a nice little confrontation that ends with the lights going out. But if you stuck around for the teaser, you saw a great scene, which I'm really excited about, because as much as I love and adore Ash and think he's a total badass, I've been kind of waiting for Kelly and Pablo to reach equal badass status in their own way. We see that Pablo not only has reverted to being human, but he's going to become El Brujo Especial, which he very wisely points out sounds like a beer. But I just love the fact that Pablo might actually be able to develop some powers or some witchcraft, something that sets him apart from Ash and Kelly. I mean, going back to episode 2 of season 1, where we see Pablo going into battle with just a broken bottle and seeming so helpless, I just love how Pablo has continued to grow and evolve over the course of these seasons. And my hope is that Kelly will do the same. Maybe Kelly will end up becoming one of the Knights of Samaria, which I think would be a very cool development for her character if they go that route. But that's all I got for Unfinished Business. I thoroughly enjoyed the episode. Can't wait to see episode 5 next week. And if you have any friends out there who are not following this show, definitely give them a nice, gentle bit of encouragement to do so, because right now the show needs all of its fans to get behind it. But if you enjoyed my reaction and review, please consider giving my channel a subscribe. You can hunt me down on Twitter at Colbrax, or leave a comment in the comments below. And there's all kinds of things that I want to review later this week. I'll definitely be reviewing the new Pacific Rim film. I'll be reviewing Isle of Dogs. I'm going to do my best to check out the Steven Soderbergh film Unsane. So a lot of cool things on the horizon in the near future. So as always, I greatly appreciate the support from my channel, and I'll be back at you all in the very near future. So long!